Welcome back to a Fifth of Jack Gaming, where today we're going to do something we haven't done for a little bit. We're going to have a deck tech of the brand new, well, not brand new, but the new Dungeons & Dragons Commander deck, Dungeons of the Death. So this has Saprish as the hidden ways. That's a white, blue, and a black that costs for a human wizard. Whenever one or more creatures are put into the graveyard from anywhere, venture into the dungeon. This ability triggers once per turn. That means we get to go farther into the dungeon. And then we can create undead. Whenever you complete a dungeon, return a target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. This is going to end up being our commander. So when we do an update to it, this is going to be still the commander and everything, because this is what the deck tech is going to be covering, and this is where we're going to end up going. It's a special little thing that we have with this set is the dungeons, so I decided to go all in on it. With that said, let's open up the precon and see what we have inside. You got the little deck box. It has these little counters. If you ever want to, you can end up punching them out. I just end up pitching it because I normally have dice. I end up doing it. More counters up top, more counters over here. Looks like these counters are marking the victory, or use as victory confetti, or use it as just garbage. Alright, it looks like it came in its own little box. Things that keep it are shipping, or like we would say, more garbage. I think that could keep our life total. It's two-sided, which isn't too bad. How to play the deck, which we don't need, but if you're getting new into Commander, it'll be a good way to help out with it. I strongly would still suggest watching videos or anything like that over that, but it's not too bad. And then we have the deck itself, what we're here for. The piece of resistance. And let's go through the deck list. There's our commander. No lower. It costs us 2, a white, a blue, and a black. It's a legendary horror. When it enters the battlefield, each opponent tap up to one untapped creature you control, or when it enters the battlefield, each opponent tap up to one untapped creature you control. When you do this, gain control of a target creature that player controls with a power less than or equal to the tapped creature's power as long as you control her. Whenever you attack with a creature an opponent controls, you gain 2 life, and that player loses 2 life. That's a 3/5 body. Looks like another lieutenant that would be for the deck that we can end up running instead of the commander that we're planning. But I don't think he's going to end up ultimately making the cut for us. Minimalist Containment costs us 2 and a white for an enchantment. Enchant non-land permanent. Enchanted permanent is a treasure artifact. Sacrifice this artifact, add 1 mana of any color. It loses all the abilities, all the other abilities it has. Hamad Posh, Ruin Seeker, costs us 1, a white, and a blue. Human Wizard. Room abilities of dungeons you own trigger an additional time. Has a 2/3 body. Dungeon Map costs us 3 for our artifact, where we could pay 1, or we can tap it, add 1 colorless mana. Pay 3, tap it, venture into a dungeon, activate this ability only at sorcery speed. Evolving Wilds is a land that we can end up tapping, sacrificing, and looking for a basic land and putting it in the play tapped. Booklord's Ever Full Purse costs us 2 for an artifact. We can pay 1, tap it, roll a d4, and create the number of treasure tokens equal to the result. That player, or the player to your right, gains control of Buckna Eventful Purse. Clay Golem costs 4, and it's a golem who we can pay 6, roll a d8, monstrosity X, where X is the result. So if we roll a 5, we'll get 5 +1/+1 counters. It has Berserk. When it becomes monstrous, destroy a target permanent. It has a 4/4 body. Component Pouch costs 3 for an artifact. Tap, remove a component counter from Component Pouch. Add 2 mana of different colors. Tap, roll a d20. Now if we roll 1 through 9, we get to put a counter on it. If we roll 10 through 20, we get to put 2 counters on it. Rom Unicorn costs 1 and a white for a unicorn. We can sacrifice it, destroy a target enchantment. Has a 2/2 body. Swords to Plowshare costs 1 white for an instant. Exile a target creature. Its controller gains life equal to its power. Wall of Omens costs 1 and a white. It's a wall, has Defender, and when Wall of Omens enters the battlefield, draw a card. It's a 0/4. Oh man, an oldie and a goodie. Forbidden Alchemy costs 2 and a blue for an instant. Look at the top 4 cards of your library. Put one of them into your hand, the rest of them into your graveyard. Has a flashback of 6 and a black. That means we could end up playing it again from our graveyard. But once we play it from our graveyard, we have to exile it. Merfolk Looter costs 1 and a blue for a Merfolk Rogue. Tap it, draw a card, and then discard a card. Has a 1/1 body. Next is Maul Drifter. Costs 4 and 1 blue for an elemental. Flying, and when it enters the battlefield, we get to draw 2 cards. It also has its evoke cost that costs 2 and a blue. You may pay the evoke cost. If you do, sacrifice it when it enters the battlefield. So that means we'll only get to draw the cards for 3 mana. But that's not too bad either. Murder of the Crows costs 3 and 2 blue for a bird that has flying. And whenever another creature dies, you may draw a card. If you do, discard a card. It's a 4/4. It lets us end up looting through our deck, which obviously with our commander, that's what the plan is to sacrifice stuff and go farther into the dungeon. Propaganda costs 2 and a blue for an enchantment. Creatures can't attack you unless this controller pays 2 for each creature they control that's attacking you. Flagcrafter costs 2 and a black for a human shaman. When it enters the battlefield, each player sacrifices a creature or planeswalker. Each player who can't discards a card. Has a 3/2 body. Resembling Skeleton costs 1 and a black for a skeleton warrior. We could pay 1 and a black and return Resembling Skeleton from the graveyard to the battlefield tapped. Has a 1/1 body. Shriekmaw costs 4 and a black for an elemental. It has Fear. When Shriekmaw enters the battlefield, destroy a target non-artifact, non-black creature. Has an evoke cost of 1 and a black. That means that we would end up having to sacrifice it as soon as it comes into play. Has a 3/2 body. Unburial Rites costs 4 and a black. It's a sorcery card. Return a target creature from your graveyard to the battlefield. Has a flashback cost of 3 and a white. Then we have Victimize. Costs 2 and a black for a sorcery. Choose 2 target creatures cards in your graveyard. Sacrifice a creature. If you do, return the chosen cards to the battlefield tapped. Cloudbrazer costs 3, a white, and a blue for a human scout who has flying. And when it enters the battlefield, we gain 2 life and we draw 2 cards. Despark. Costs a white and a black. Exile target permanent with a mana cost of 4 or greater. Necrotic Sliver costs 1, a white, and a black. For a sliver, all slivers have pay 3, sacrifice this permanent, destroy a target permanent. It's a 2/2 body. Offensive Stitcher costs 1, a blue, and a black. For a human wizard, draw a card and then discard a card. That's when we tap it. Pay 2, a blue, and a black. Tap it, sacrifice it, return a target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Vanish into Memory costs 2, a white, and a blue. It's an instant. Exile target creature. You draw cards equal to that creature's power. At the beginning of your next end step, return it to the owner's control. If you do, discard cards equal to the creature's toughness. So when this comes into play, or when we end up playing it, we get to draw based off power. But when that creature comes back, we have to discard according to its toughness. Arcane Signet costs 2 for an artifact. Tap it, add 1 mana of any color that goes with our commander's identity. Brentish Heart costs 3 for an artifact creature that's an elk. Tap 3, sacrifice it, search our land for, or search our library for up to 2 basic lands. They enter the battlefield tap, and then we shuffle. Has a 2/2 body. Commander Sphere costs 3. It's an artifact. We could tap it, add 1 mana of any color that identifies with our commander. We could sacrifice it and draw a card. Immovable Rod costs 1 white for an artifact. You may choose not to untap Immovable Rod during your untap step. Whenever Immovable Rod becomes untapped, venture into the dungeon. You can pay 3 and a white. Tap it, and as long as Immovable Rod remains tapped, another target permanent loses all abilities and can't attack or block. Radiant Scholar costs 5 and a white for an angel with flying lifelink. And whenever Radiant Scholar or another non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, venture into the dungeon. You can pay a white, discard an angel, venture into the dungeon, and you gain 3 life. Revivify costs 2 and a white. It's an instant. We roll a d20 and add the number of target creatures cards in our graveyard that were put there from the battlefield this turn. If we roll and we get 1 through 14, we return all creatures you control that were put this way from the battlefield to your hand. Or if we roll get 15 or greater, we return those creature cards from the graveyard to the battlefield. Thorough Investigation costs 2 and a white for an enchantment. Whenever you attack, investigate. That means we get to a clue artifact token with, you would pay 2, sacrifice this artifact, and we get to draw a card. Whenever you sacrifice a clue, venture into the dungeon. So we either get to start the dungeon or we keep on going through the dungeon. Something nice. Arcane Endeavor costs 5 and 2 blue. It's a sorcery. Roll 2 d8s. Choose 1 result. Draw cards equal to the result. Then you may cast an instant or sorcery card with a mana value of less than equal to the other result from your hand without paying its mana costs. Min the Wilian Looseness costs 1 and 2 blue for a gnome wizard. Whenever you draw your second card each turn, create a 1/1 blue illusion creature. This creature gets +1/+0 for each other illusion you control. Whenever illusion you control dies, you may put a permanent card with a mana value less than equal to the creature's power from your hand onto the battlefield. We got the Phantom Steed, costs 3 and a blue for a horse illusion. Has flash. When it enters the battlefield, exile another target creature you control until Phantom Steed leaves the battlefield. Whenever Phantom Steed attacks, copy, tap an attacking token of that creature that's exiled, except for its illusion and an additional to its other types. Sacrifice that token at the end of combat. Has a 4/3 body. Rod of Absorption costs 2 and a blue. It's an artifact. Whenever a player casts an instant or sorcery spell, exile it instead of putting it into the graveyard as it resolves. Pay X, tap it, sacrifice Rod of Absorption, and you may cast any number of the spells from among the exile cards with Rod of Absorption with the total mana cost of X or less without paying their mana costs. Grave Endeavor costs 5 and 2 black. It's an instant. Roll 2 d10s and choose one result. Return a creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield with the number of +1/+1 counters equal to that result. Then each opponent loses X amount of life and you gain X amount of life where the X is the amount of the other result. The Wand of Orcas costs 2 and a black for an equipment. Whenever an equipped creature attacks or blocks, it's and zombies you control gain Death Touch until end of turn. Whenever an equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, create that many 2/2 black zombie tokens. The equip cost is 3. Extract Brains costs an X, a blue, and a black for sorcery. Target opponent chooses X amount of cards from his or her hand. Look at those cards, and you may cast a spell from among those without paying its mana cost. Midnight Pathlighter costs 2, a white, and a blue. Creatures you control can't be blocked except by legendary creatures. Whenever one or more creatures you control deals damage to a player, venture into the dungeon. Has a 2/3 body. Cataclysmic Gearhulk costs 3 and 2 white for a construct that has vigilance. When it enters the battlefield, each player chooses an artifact, a creature, and an enchantment, and a planeswalker among non-land permanents they control. Then they sacrifice the rest. It's a 4/5 body. Eternal Dragon costs 5 and a white for a flying. We could pay 3 and 2 white to return Eternal Dragon from our graveyard to our hand. Activate this ability only during your upkeep. It has plane cycling for 2 colorless. That means we could discard it and look for a planes, reveal it, and put it into our hand, and then shuffle. It's a 5/5 body. Karmic Guide costs 3 and 2 white for an Angel Spirit. It has flying, protection from black, and then it has Echo. An Echo cost of 3 and 2 white. At the beginning of your upkeep, if it came under your control since the beginning of your last upkeep, sacrifice it unless you pay the Echo cost. When Karmic Guide enters the battlefield, return a target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Has a 2/2 body. Sun Titan costs 4 and 2 white. Has vigilance. Whenever it enters the battlefield or attacks, you may return a target permanent cost with a mana value of 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Has a 6/6 body. Sunblast Angel costs 4 and 2 white. It has flying, and obviously it's an angel, but when it enters the battlefield, destroy all tapped creatures. Has a 4/5 body to it. Champion of Wits costs 2 and a blue for a Naga Wizard. When it enters the battlefield, you may draw cards equal to the power. If you do, discard 2 cards. Has an Eternalize of 5 and 2 blue. That means you may exile this card from your graveyard, create a token copy of it. It's a 4/4 black zombie with no mana cost. Internalize only can be done as a sorcery. Has a 2/1 body. Creator of Mysteries costs 2 and 2 blue for a Sphinx who has flying. Whenever you cycle or discard another card, scry 1. Cycling costs 1 blue, and you can discard this card and draw a card. It's a 4/4 body. Phantasmal Image costs 1 and a blue for an illusion. You may have Phantasmal Image enter the battlefield as a copy of any creature on the battlefield, except for its illusion, additional to its other types, and has, when this creature becomes a target of spells or abilities, sacrifice it. Has a 0/0 power toughness. But it'll end up copying that creature, so whatever power toughness that would have, that would be quite peachy. Doomed Necromancer costs 2 and a black for a human cleric. It's a mercenary. Costs a black. Tap it, sacrifice Doomed Necromancer, return a target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. It has a 2/2 toughness. Power and toughness. Necromantic Selection costs 4 and 3 black. It's a sorcery. Destroy all creatures, then return a creature card put into the graveyard this way onto the battlefield under your control. It's a black zombie and additional to its other types. And then we can exile Necromantic Selection. Ashen Rider costs 4, 2 white, and 2 black for an Archon. Flying. When it enters the battlefield or dies, exile target permanent. Has a 5/5 body. Baleful Strix costs a blue and a black for a bird that has flying and death touch. Whenever it enters the battlefield, we get to draw a card. Has a 1/1 power toughness. Hostage Taker costs 2, a blue, and a black for a human pirate. When it enters the battlefield, exile another target creature or artifact until Hostage Taker leaves the battlefield. You may cast that card as long as it remains exiled. You may spend mana as though there was mana of any cast to cast that spell. Utterin costs 2, a white, and a black. It's an instant. Exile target non-land permanent. Chrome. It costs 4 for a golem. When it enters the battlefield, you get to look for a basic land and it enters the battlefield tapped. And then when it dies, we get to draw a card. Has a 2/2 power toughness. Choke Estuary is a land that could be tapped for a blue or a black. But as it enters the battlefield, we may reveal a island or a swamp card from our hand. If we don't, it comes into play tapped. Dark Water Catacombs is a land that we can pay 1, tap it, add a black and a blue. Exotic Orchard, we can tap it, add 1 mana of any color that opponents can produce. Gyrete's Syndrome, it can tap for a colorless, or we can pay 2, tap it, each player draws a card and then discards a card. High Market, tap it to add a colorless, or we can tap it, sacrifice a creature, we gain 1 life. Numberless Maze, you can tap it, add a colorless, or we can tap it, add a white, activate this if you only control an island, or we can pay it, tap it, add a blue, activate that only if we control a plains. Port Town taps for either a blue or a white. As Port Town enters the battlefield, you may reveal a plains or an island card from your hand. If you don't, it enters the battlefield tapped. So we show a plains or an island, it comes into play untapped. Prairie Stream, it's a plains or an island. It enters the battlefield tapped unless we control 2 or more basic lands. Sunken Hollow, it's an island and a swamp. Sunken Hollow enters the battlefield tapped unless you control 2 or more basic lands. Farwater Stone costs 2 for an artifact. You can tap, add 1 mana of any color that the lands the opponent's control can produce. Miniature Golem costs 7. And when it enters the battlefield, destroy a target non-land permanent an opponent controls. Has a 3/3 body. Soul Ring costs us 1, and we end up being able to tap it, add 2 colorless. Good old Commander staple. Oh man, Commander Quarters is going to be excited. With a Bauble getting finally reprinted, costs us 1. It's an artifact. You can pay 2, tap it, sacrifice it, and search your library for a basic land card and put it onto the battlefield tapped. Then shuffle. That's his favorite pet card. Arcane Signet comes in the battlefield tapped. Then we can tap it at either a blue, white, or a black. Azorius Chantry enters the battlefield tapped. When it enters the battlefield, we have to bounce back a land card that we control to our owner's hands, aka our own hands, but it has the ability to tap, add a white and a blue. Command Tower taps, add 1 color of any color that identifies with our commander. Dimir Aqueduct enters battlefield tapped, and when it enters the battlefield, we have to bounce a land that we control back to our hand. It taps for a blue or a black. Esper Panorama costs or taps as a colorless, or we can pay 1, tap it, sacrifice it, and search for a basic plains, island, or swamp. Put it on the battlefield tap, then shuffle. Orcas Basilisk enters the battlefield tapped. When it enters the battlefield, return a land card. It taps for a white or a black. Terramorphic Expanse, tap it, sacrifice it, and we get to search for a basic land and put it on the battlefield tap, then shuffle. Thriving Heath is a land, and it enters battlefield tapped. As it comes in, we get to choose a color other than white. Tap it, add a white, or add whatever mana we choose. Same thing with the Thriving Isle and the Thriving Moor. We all know those from Jumpstart. We got some good old Lightning Greaves. Costs us 2 for an equipment. Equipped creature has haste and shroud. Costs us 0 to equip. So we got 7 plains. We have 5 islands and 7 swamps. That finishes the main board of the deck. We get 1 ultra thick one of the commander. You can see it's almost double to triple the size of thickness of the regular commander deck. And then we get a whole bunch of tokens. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 illusions. 1, 2, 3 clues. And let's see what's on the other sides of those guys. A goblin, treasure, champion of wits, awesome. Skeleton, zombie, and zombie. Also with that bad boy, we have Dungeon of the Mad Mage, which is another dungeon we could go into. The Lost Mine of Peldor, and the Tomb of Annihilation. Over on the other side of the Tomb of Annihilation is the legendary creature that we can end up getting that has Death Touch. And this talks about any other formats or anything that we can end up doing. What the game plan is that we're going to run this a couple times, how the deck is, find what we like, what we don't like of the deck, and then do 10 card upgrades. We're going to pull 10 cards out of there, and we're going to put 10 new cards into it, and then see how that ends up going. So we'll have an update that will come along with this. What did you like about the video? I know it's been a while since we've done a deck tech, so we might be a little bit rusty. But if you're liking the content that we're putting out, like, subscribe, and hit that little bell icon to be notified about our future videos. Also, don't be afraid to share us. That way we can end up trying to get the channel to grow. Our first goal is trying to get up to 50 subscribers. With that said, till next time, we'll see you later.